We tapping in. What is going on, good people? How we doing? Happy Thursday. Hopefully everyone is doing well. Hopefully your week has been going well. Hopefully you in high and great spirits. We here. We made it. We back at it again, which means that we are black at it again. So tonight should be an incredible talk. I'm really excited to talk to our guests. It's been a minute since we had a chance to kind of powwow, and I'll wait for them to come on in, and when they do, I'll break down the intro. But while we're waiting, something it's off topic, but like it seems that we have been very concerned with stuff that I guess I shouldn't say we shouldn't be concerned with it, but it's been very interesting to see how much attention we are paying to someone that I don't think represents us in the light. And I think we'll kind of talk about this too a little bit tonight about the importance of legacy. So let me go ahead and just do a quick intro. Let me tell you how small the world is. I met our guest here tonight in all places across the nation at a conference, at a NASPA conference. And I think we both was waiting on maybe another presentation or something to start. So we had some time to kill. We just kind of bumped into each other and then sparked the conversation. And then come to find out, we both was working at the same institution and did not know. At the time, we both was working at Cal State Northridge. And this is so crazy that we met across the nation way back in Orlando, and sparked up this conversation and figured out that not only did we work at Northridge, but we both was from the Bay Area. We both were former student athletes. We both had a passion to like develop identity holistically for student athletes. And we were going about this in our own like way of how we navigated the system and got to where we are in the space of academia. So that was several years ago, a long time ago. And so here we are now, both of us are on this path of trying to do our part to make sure that we are informing our people. So I am so happy to have you on here tonight, dear sis. How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm well. How are you? Can you hear me good?
I hear you. I hear you nice and clear.
Okay, wonderful. I want to make sure. I just realized I had the music on. I'm like, dang, is it too loud?
Nah, you coming in fine. I don't hear anything in your background.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm well. I have no complaints whatsoever.
Yep.
Just happy to see another day.
Listen, I hear that. I hear that because today it be seeming like another day ain't ever gonna be promised for real, for real.
That's real talk. That's real talk. So I really wanted to, get into this conversation by setting it up that, we both, or I would say, we both at one point were scholar practitioners, meaning that in the world of academia, we didn't sit back and just focus on problems. We both were solution driven. And I
Mhm.
think that really forwarded us in our work in our professions at that time. I know since then you've gone on to start a doctorate program, and I want to hear your experience about with that. And I know you traveled abroad, you've been to Africa, so I want to hear a little bit about that because I think that all ties into like a sense of awakening or maybe a newfound purpose within you. And I want to hear about it.
It does. Okay, so yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned the doc program. So I'm actually not in the doc program no more, and I can explain a little bit of that.
Uh
I
huh.
think I did before after I had came back.
Yep. Yep.
But
Yep.
after I finished my master's at Cal State Northridge, I pursued a doctorate initially in sport management at Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
Then that didn't actually work out how I thought it was going to because the focus wasn't what I wanted. My focus
Mm-hmm.
has always been us, the athletes, the players. I don't care about the owners because they don't care about the athletes. So I really don't give a damn, excuse my language. But that's my focus and that's where I'm at. So I ended
Mm-hmm.
up switching to higher education. And of course, me doing the work that I'm doing, really understanding who I am. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this probably really not gonna work the way that I would like for it to, because I'm literally telling all athletes to go against everything that they're telling them because I know it's a lie, right?
Mm,
Not
mm,
only did we live and experience it, I worked in it, right? Like I
mm-hmm.
worked inside, so I really know a lot of the ins and outs of how those areas work, which a lot of athletes do if you were ever close to your coaches or administrators within athletics.
Yeah.
But so I started to finish off my process in higher education. And a year before I probably should have graduated, maybe a year and a half before I would have graduated, I went to Africa for a wedding. A friend of mine, literally my first time ever going to Africa, first time ever being in a wedding, ended up being her maid of honor. Did not expect that, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, dang, like this is really ancestral for me because I had been
Mm-hmm.
go to Africa for a minute. However,
Mm-hmm.
I went there, I was a little shocked by what I saw, right?
Mm.
Uh,
What country were you in, if you don't mind me asking?
no worries. Yeah, I went to Cameroon,
Cameroon.
which was colonized by France.
Mm-hmm.
So in my time there, I learned about like the history of Cameroon and France, and like how France is trash as hell with how they treat Cameroonians in the country. Like you make their money, then charge them for their money. That makes no sense to me. But really just understanding how like all these systems kind of tie across, and how education, you know what I'm saying, is kind of produced in both areas, like in the States and abroad,
Mm-hmm.
specifically Africa. And a lot of people around the country, even in Africa especially, they have like this, they have an affinity for America and the way that they do things out here, because it's always publicized and promoted that America is like the best place, like it's the best place to be if you want to be rich and all this stuff, come to America. But after really hearing about like all the stuff that had taken place between France and Africa, but then also doing some research myself before I even went there, looking up their revolutionary leaders like Patrice Lumumba and Kwame Nkrumah, and there's so
Mm-hmm.
so many more. I haven't even scratched the surface. But that made me realize like I really didn't want to pursue higher education. I didn't want to give another white institution my name. My name is already solidified at Cal State Northridge on 2 degrees, and that's more than enough for me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
If I could go back, I probably wouldn't do that, to be honest with you. Now, having the perspective that I do have, having the knowledge that I do have now, I probably wouldn't ever give a white institution my name at all. And almost would say that for a lot of the HBCUs as well, but that's the one thing that we have. So I'm okay with utilizing the BS that we have in society today to our benefit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I could deal with that. But that trip to Africa really, really turned my, like, I was already on that track before that trip, but then that trip just kind of put the nail in the coffin. That was it. It was dead. I was like, listen, we didn't have how many doctors come through these PWIs and these HBCUs, and we're always proud about how we graduate all these professional Black people and blah, 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 blah. And our community still trash and ghetto. We ain't seen no benefits from none of these degrees that people have gotten. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, for me, I just said immediately, like, I'm good. I
Yeah.
want another pawn in y'all system. Like, I'm totally good. I can work in higher education to an extent. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
don't like politics because, truth be told, they would not like my mouth, and I would not sugarcoat the BS that they do. Like, working in higher education for the past, since I was what? It's been over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's been about what? 12 years? I've worked in higher education in different capacities, as a mentor, as a tutor, as an office assistant, as an advisor. I've taught classes, like, you know what I'm saying? Gone to
Yeah.
professional conferences, like all of
Yep.
that.
Yep.
In the production of it, what it produces for us, I don't care about nobody else. And I'm not ashamed of that. And I don't care how people feel about that. But if it's not producing nothing for us at this point, I really don't care. Like, I'm not trying to give you my intellectual capital. I'm not trying to give you any of that. Like, you won't get the genius of what comes from me and my ancestors and what's
Yeah.
meant to my people. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Oh yeah.
That flipped a lot of things around for me, and I just had to take a step away. It took me a minute because I had spoke to my advisor, and I was like, I'm really not wanting to do this. And she was like, well, go to Africa, see how you feel, and then let's talk about it. I did what she said. I went to Africa. I took note. I mean, I bawled a couple times while I was out there just looking at how our people are treated. You know what I'm saying? And the condition that they're in. And I
Yeah.
was like, I can't in full conscience, like know what they're doing within these spaces and still participate in them. You know what I'm saying? In the way that I was going to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We really can't say no more that we're getting into the system to work within the system, because we've seen 1,000 people do that and they haven't worked within the system to benefit us at all. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
I had
mm,
to that mentality alone. It's like, no, that hasn't worked for us in how many years, and y'all still thinking that that's the way?
yeah. You know what's interesting about it is, I think both you and I have seen this, time and time again,
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of us are entering into academia searching for validation.
Mm-hmm.
And the validation that we're looking for, it doesn't come from the concept of, as people, I see you doing well. That should be enough validation for us to continue to do what our purpose is.
Right.
The validation that we seek in is going to tackle the purpose, unfortunately. And
Mm.
so then you become a token.
Very
And
much so.
that and now you are a spokesperson, you are a gatekeeper for the system that's in place that you said that you was going to try to interrupt, but now you are a part of like this machine now. And I
Right.
think that's something that has been so unfortunate and very eye-opening to myself, that's been working in academia for 15 years now, and see that. I see that all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really unfortunate. So I understand completely everything that you're saying, because we've seen it. We know people that worked at Northridge that
Yeah.
they came in and said they was going to be Neo of the Matrix, but then they turned into Agent Smith.
Listen, too many
It,
times it happen.
it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
So when we talking about legacy, and I've heard you talk about this, a couple of different times on your own podcast, which is a dope podcast, by the way. I think I told you that before, but let's just go ahead and shout that out now. Um, but I've heard you talk about this sense about like understanding what truly is our lineage and our legacy, and what are we here to do to achieve it. And if we're not working towards that, then what is the point of anything that we're doing? But I would love for you to break that down as how you define like what is Black legacy.
Okay. So, and it's so funny that you say Black legacy, because that's even something that I'm like, we gotta, in order for us as a people to collectively come together, we gotta figure out what that means for us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
I had to look into that word, and I'm like, I done heard Black, African American, African, all this, and the one thing that always comes true is we were always the original in everything. So I've kind of leaned towards going towards calling us original beings and originals, as opposed to Black, African American, all that, because we already know all of that, where that comes from. But neither here nor there. So Africa again, right? It's just been on me, because when I went, that during the time that I went, it was really their dry season, right?
Mm-hmm,
I,
mm-hmm.
during December, when it's usually hot out there, actually, and everybody having parties, festival, like Christmas is hot out, like didn't rain, right? The whole time I was there.
Mm-hmm.
Day I left. Soon as I got to the airport, it started raining.
Mm,
To me, I was like, damn, like my ancestors really watching out, like they really proud that I finally made it home. You
mm,
And that's not where my family originated from, right? I
mm.
did African ancestry. I don't trust 23andMe or none of that ancestry, none of that. No, that's not us. African ancestry is a Black owned company,
Yeah.
Black representatives, like they're trying to help us connect to us.
That's not selling your DNA as soon as you give them the sample.
Right. Right. So I was like, dang, like my ancestors really looking out, right? And as I really started to think about like who I am, right, that really helped me to understand what exactly legacy and lineage was. And so I realized, of course, you can look up the definitions and see
Of
what it is,
course. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Everything
yeah.
passed down from your ancestors. But for me, the difference was more about, for your legacy, it's how are you teaching your next generations to operate through life? what are you teaching them about life? What are the principles? What are the values? What are your morals? Like, what are your ways of operating? What are those things that you're doing? But also, how are they actually productive to the lineage? Because legacy and lineage are tied. You can't disconnect the two. They're just there. You
Mm-hmm.
gonna have lineage regardless, and whatever they do is how you set up your legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And researching into my own family's legacy and lineage, I realized like there is a lot of things that have happened, a lot of things that have gotten stripped away, a lot of things we've forgotten, a lot of things people just kind of was like, I don't really like that. The world says I could do something different. Let me do different.
Mm-hmm.
But our legacy is really understanding like who we are, you know what I'm saying? And how we represent ourselves, how we show up for ourselves. And I oftentimes would reflect on people like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Kwame Nkrumah and Patrice Lumumba, Marcus Garvey, people like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
To think about like what was their actual legacy. We know what society tells us their legacy is. I want to know from their children. These were the people that they birthed. These were the people that they raised, that had day-to-day contact with them. I want to know what they were taught by their fathers and mothers. I don't know. Society tells me, oh, this person was for y'all because they marched, or this person was for y'all because they held this event. No, I don't want to know that. I want to know what happened on the day-to-day. How are you raising your children? How are you teaching your children to then raise their children, right? And I had this conversation with my mother. We're close. I could talk to her about anything. And I was telling her like, and not to be rude or to be mean to her. And my mom can take whatever I tell her. It may hurt her feelings from time to time, but she'll take that, go sit with it, come back, and we'll talk about it, and it's good. You know what I'm saying? Sit in those moments and reflect on how she may not have done the best that she could or done what made sense, whatever. But I was telling her about like, you're supposed to be the person that teaches me how to choose a husband. You're the person that's supposed to teach me how to be a woman. You're the person that's supposed to teach me about sex, pregnancy, family, all of that, right? Because I come from you.
Yeah.
Right? And I learned what you teach me. We talk all the time about how kids soak up stuff, but I don't think we put it into the perspective that it really needs to be in, which is what you're teaching this child is what they're going to teach your grandchildren, and then your great grandchildren, and your great 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 great. You know what I'm saying? On down the line. So you can't ever just think that it's me and my kids, because it don't stop there. It didn't even start there. But that's been here before us, as they tell us, millions of years ago, right? So what I look like disrespecting them, I don't know what messages they left or that we should have been knowing, right? I'm still trying to research and uncover that. But as I find out, I make those adjustments in my life. But the biggest thing that we have to realize is that legacy really is how we're actually producing the next lineage or the next generation within our lineage. How are we teaching them to operate and function through life? How are we teaching them to critically think about life? Because we don't do that. Like the things that we decide that we need to consume, a lot of it we don't at all. I probably say more often than not that like 99% of the shit that we deal with today, that we interact with, that we do, unnecessary to me. Very unnecessary. I don't see the benefits. A lot of times I see the detriments of things. And I'm like, I just feel like there was a better way. There were better. And that Black legacy is taking back what was stolen from us, and we have to go looking for that. It's not going to come to us because those who came before us, they're not as forthcoming. And we can get into that in a later point, but
Right.
they're not necessarily as forthcoming, and they've kind of lost a lot of what the legacy should have been for us.
Yeah. I don't know if my wife is on here now or later, but one thing that we always talk about together is, we have like this running saying between us is like when we're having these real conversations about how we are as a whole, as a people right now, somewhere in that conversation, one of us will say, our parents' generation failed us.
Yeah.
Because because our great grandparent generation failed them, and our great greats, they didn't have a choice. So what you're talking about is like we have to restore, and that may sound heavy for a lot of people who are of our generation.
Right.
but that is the call, right? That is the call for us. It is on us to break. Like we talk a lot, like within our like millennial generation, you hear a lot of people talking about I'm breaking generation curses,
Yep.
and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So a part of that too is like what you're talking about is restoring from which you come from. It is a real concept of like Sankofa, like for real.
Hmm.
And shout out to your mom too. That's like you have someone that you can kind of that is of a previous generation that you can talk to, like for real, for have like like transparent and real conversations about whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
And I think that's also something that's so vital. But again, as you said before, how we are raised sometimes, like it completely contradicts like what is the real mission.
Right.
We some of us come from a, you do as I say and not as I do. And I feel like that is one of the biggest issues, with our generation, because we know this. And I think this is one of my favorite quotes from James Baldwin. He said, our children have never been good at listening to us, but they have never failed at imitating us. So it's about action. It's like, what are we showing the next generation? It's not necessarily what we're saying. It's more about what we are doing. And that's the thing for sure that we know that our kids pay attention to without a doubt. You know what I mean? They looking at what are we doing? How are we handling certain situations? And that's tough. It's a challenge that I think not a lot of folks are up to, but it is a challenge that we have to come to grips with, or else we will continue to repeat this cycle. So I think that's something else that's so important about, like, the space that you're in right now, the what you talk about within like your own podcast, because like we need to have more conversations about this,
Yeah.
because I think sometimes we may feel like we're doing it by ourselves. There's no one else that's out here trying to, but there is, we're there are a lot of us here.
Yeah.
So the more we talk about this stuff is so important, because it needs to be done, and there needs to be not an individual shift.
Right.
We should never operate from an individual standpoint, as you say, as the original people.
Yeah.
We should never operate from an individual standpoint.
It's illogical and really impossible, honestly, if you think about it.
Really, because you may feel like you're doing it, but eventually you gonna hit that glass ceiling.
Yeah.
And because we go about it by ourselves, we're gonna be stuck by ourselves. So it's like that's never been us anyway. We've always had a focused core point that was about the village and about the community. And I think that's another thing that we have to restore
Hmm.
within, like, what we're talking about. So one thing I wanted to ask you, because now more than ever, like I feel like there are a lot of different platforms that's speaking from one aspect or another of, like, quote unquote Black experience.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I see a lot of these platforms, like when it comes to like talking about relationship building. You mentioned before, like, the importance of like having someone to teach you how to love, how to find a partner, so on and so forth. Like that's important.
Right.
A lot of our platforms nowadays, it seems that it's a lot of verses. It's a lot of men versus women. It's a lot of women versus men. And these seems to be the platforms that like get the most attention.
Right.
Within, like, your concept of what we have to do to like restore this legacy, like how do you feel, like how do we tackle that? How do we get into like making sure that too much of us are not soaking this stuff in too? Because I feel like you said, that's really detrimental to us as well.
Yep. So I would agree that a lot of it is very, you did it, it's your fault, it's on you, it's on her. To me, it's all stupid, because at the end of the day, it's on both of us. Ain't no relationship without both of us. So how is it one person's problem? But
Yeah. Yep.
how a lot of people think today, unfortunately, and we really have to break that down.
Yeah, we do.
Because a relationship isn't one person. Otherwise, you would be by yourself. And most people that are by themselves, they're not happy. So, because you weren't meant to be by yourself, so I don't see why you would be happy by yourself. But neither here nor there. Uh, a lot of the things that I watch, and there's a couple people that I watch YouTubes that men do. I watch the YouTubes that the women do, because I want to hear both perspectives. Like, I really want to know what they're teaching the next generation, because mind you, it's not a whole hell of a lot of us that's really, really listening to this stuff. It's like those 20-year-olds,
That's
you
a
know?
killer point. That's a great point. Yeah.
So they're really shaping the minds of the people who are really about to be parents. And some of them are already parents. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yep.
So when I look at that stuff, my biggest thing is always, I can hear both sides. It don't matter who I'm listening to, whether I'm listening to a man complain about women or I'm listening to a woman complain about men or whatever have you. I can hear both sides on both ends. I can tell you, okay, I feel like that make a little sense, but you wrong on that part. That just ain't gonna work. But the biggest thing that I realize is that nobody wants to take accountability.
Mm.
That's the biggest thing that people are missing in all of these conversations, right? It's, I can't teach you how to be a man because I'm not one. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? I could only teach you what I prefer as a woman, how I prefer to be treated by a man, right? But I can't tell you how to be a man. I could tell you things that women may like. And likewise, a man can't tell a woman how to be a woman. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
we have to realize that there are differences amongst us for a reason, but we're
Mm.
stepping into what those differences really are fully to be able to function and operate like we should.
Yeah.
And a lot of the issues that we're seeing between black men and black women all started in the home. All of it, every damn near every conversation that people talk about, it all reverts back to how you were raised at home, who was there, who was not, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not taking that time to really stop and be like, damn, like I really do this, like I really operate in this way, I really do this type of situation. Like, nobody ever really goes back and have conversations with their exes, right, to understand like what made the relationship crumble.
Mm-hmm.
That's too much like, right, you ain't trying to fix yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mind talking to an ex of mine, asking him like, what was it about me that drew you, or what was it about me that turned you off, right? I've done that
Mm-hmm.
because I'm genuinely curious. As
Mm-hmm.
who is going to marry and have children with a man, I need to understand y'all as best I can. I'm not a man.
Mm-hmm.
I got to use y'all as my resource. But as
Mm-hmm.
was using each other as actual resources, we use each other as fucking punching bags and blaming machines. Like, it's you. You did this to me. You did that to me. But you let them. You let her. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when are we going to take accountability in what we're doing? But then also, when are we going to stop and think about some of the things that we're requiring and expecting of one another when they don't benefit lineage, when they don't benefit legacy? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need
Mm-hmm.
a figure man if he's not going to be present at the home. Because
Mm.
who's going to teach my sons? I can't teach them. Like, I can't teach them that. I don't need to
Mm.
have a big old house that means that we're always separated because the house so damn big. I don't
Right.
need, to me, family is the most connected and the most functional when you're closer together. And a
Yeah.
lot of these issues that we're having is because we're not. And
Yeah.
we're not mentally together or close. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Really like this and not this. This is the peace.
Mm-hmm.
This is peace.
Right.
We
Right.
stand this, which perpetuates, let's keep this distance between us. Now we can't do
Right.
that. So
Right.
it's, the men need to have a meeting of their own, you know what I'm saying? Have a meeting of the minds and really like have men who understand the importance of lineage and legacy.
Yeah.
Once we really understand what lineage, legacy, and purpose is, we will move a lot differently. I'm not saying it's going to change immediately tomorrow, but you really will start to think about the things that you do on a daily basis, even the thoughts that you have
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
stuff really impact you, like the TV shows and music that you listen to. Stuff really changes when you start to think about, what is this really feeding my soul? What is this feeding my lineage? How is this preparing me to teach a legacy or to leave a legacy behind to my kids?
Come on.
You know, so it's like, we got to start thinking about that as men and women. Yeah, you
Yeah.
hurt me and I probably hurt you, but we all got to understand that our generation, we all know that it came from the way that we were raised. Mama
Yeah.
wasn't there, daddy wasn't there, mama didn't treat us right, daddy didn't treat us right, blah, 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 blah. We know the problems. We
Yeah.
know the problems. We don't have to keep talking about them. We need the solutions.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't got to blame you. I just need to talk to you. I
Yeah.
need to conversation with you. You know what I'm saying? Whoever that man is, whoever that woman is, I need to have that conversation with you,
Yeah.
especially if I'm in a relationship with you. I shouldn't be fighting with you or none of that.
Yeah.
If I'm planning on being with you and building a family with you, that makes no sense.
We are not each other's enemy.
Right.
And I think that needs to be like the battle cry, if you will. And like you said, that accountability piece is so important, so incredible. I don't think we know how much we need each other.
Right.
I think we have subscribed to the notion that we don't need each other. And that couldn't be far. That's like that this truth is like the distance between here and the sun. Like that's how far, like,
No,
like
take it to
it's
Pluto.
so yes, it's so far from the truth. Like we need each other, like, and I think we need to get to that point.
What happened? Is that me?
Yeah, I
Hear
hear
me?
you. I can't. Your video is paused. Okay, there you go. There you go. You back. You back. Okay, cool. Yeah, but that's so important for us to understand that piece, and I think that's where we're going to have to start. Like you said, that accountability piece is there. So, what's the importance of accountability? Because we both need to buy into that something that is so much bigger than us. But we can't get to what's bigger if we don't work on us. It's not going to work,
Right.
and then we can move on and go forth from there.
Mhm.
I wanna close in a sense, like I want to just have this like be like our last talking point, because I thought you did something super incredible these past couple of weeks. You picked up the book Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome, and then you started to do lives on the chapters that you completed until you completed the book.
Mhm.
Uh, Super powerful book. If y'all don't have this book
Get it.
by Dr. Joy DeGray, y'all need to get it. You need to
Okay,
get it.
is it Joy DeGray or Joy DeGrew? Because I always feel like I
I
say her wrong.
I say DeGray. I
Okay.
don't, she ain't correcting me yet. I don't know if I pray I'm not messing up her name, because she was at a conference one time. I got up and asked her a question. I hope I didn't butcher her name. So, uh, but no, like this book is so powerful. Um, and I think also too within this books, there, like you said, solutions. There are some solutions that are in this book.
Yep.
What was your biggest takeaway from the book?
The fact that it's a continuous cycle of trauma.
Yeah.
And oh goodness, I promise you the ancestors be working, and I'm just like, y'all just be on me, and I really want to understand why me, okay? Because, but then I realized I know why be, because I can handle it. I'll get pissed off for a second about it, but then I'm gonna come back to my senses. So,
If
um,
not you, then who?
right, that part. So how I told you, had to, you know what I'm saying? So it had to be me. And I just
Yep.
got to follow the call. I ain't gonna disrespect them. I ain't gonna disobey. We gonna do what we gotta do.
Yep.
Um, but the biggest and most powerful thing was the impact that trauma actually has on our families. Trauma
Yes.
is probably the most debilitating thing that we can own.
Yes.
I say that we own that because people literally will make their trauma their life. They won't
It.
never deal with it. It'll come up repeatedly. They'll think about different ways to use their trauma, which doesn't help you.
Mm-hmm.
More often than not, you're sitting in a constant state of pain, of
Mm.
hurt, of negativity. You're not thinking rationally, and you're not coming up with any solutions. You know what I'm saying? And I can say now, and that's so funny, just now at this moment, I realize like her book literally cast a light on our community in such a way that it's like you can't help but feel different after you read her book. And she doesn't even go into everything. She doesn't go into the gruesome details. She
Right.
do the bullet points. But when I tell you them bullet points coming through strong,
Oh yeah.
they coming through strong. There are some things that I feel like, of course, like we had already talked about, we don't think that it's post because we're still experiencing it, and she
Right.
did
Present.
that. Um, but it's the trauma, and the
Mhm.
trauma from all of the things that we're experiencing in our family. And our legacy is really important and really going to be key to a lot of people being able to heal trauma in their family.
Yeah.
As she was saying, let the healing begin. It has to begin. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be ugly before it gets beautiful. It's
Yeah.
ugly because trauma is ugly. Trauma doesn't make sense. Trauma isn't natural. It's not normal. It's not logical. I don't at all subscribe to the thought process that negativity should exist in the world and that that's a part of life. You're alive. You did not create life, so you're not going to sit here and tell me that something that's detrimental to life is a part of life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
it also goes into like the saying of like, what doesn't kill you make you stronger. That's
Right.
false as well.
Very, very
Because what doesn't kill you can hinder you.
right.
It can halt you. You can be at a standstill for the rest of your life. So
Which essentially is killing you.
yes, slowly, which is worse. You
Right.
know, and that's so real. I think about it too, like pain, regardless of how we experience it, is not meant for us to be comfortable in it.
Right.
I think that's why, like, we have senses to, like, when something is off, like, nah, you can't be comfortable with this. You need to
Mm-hmm.
check out your arm or whatever the case may be, right?
Right.
So when we think about it from a mental standpoint or an emotional standpoint, it should be the same way. But somehow, when we talk about trauma, because trauma mostly impacts us from a spiritual, emotional, and mental. Sometimes it can be physical too.
Yeah.
But for the most part, what people hold on to is like those other aspects of it. And we find people starting to feel comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with that pain. It's like I heard Jennifer Lewis once said, she said, when you sit and shit, when you sit and shit for a long enough, you stop smelling it.
Uh-huh.
And that's how I look at trauma.
Yeah.
you know and it's like we have to maintain and make sure that people understand, like, yo, nah, this don't feel right, and it's not supposed to feel right, so you
Yeah.
can't get comfortable in it. Let's help you get uncomfortable with this feeling, this pain, because you should be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, that's
Yeah.
kind of what I associate with like conviction, right? And I said that a lot on my podcast. I didn't even mention it. So it's called the Total Package Podcast. If you're interested, you can find it on all the platforms. Definitely tap in so we can fix our community. But anywho,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I oftentimes dang, I shouldn't have did that, but it's cool. Uh
No, go ahead, like
I'm
that's
like,
what we here for,
I know, but then it
because
made me lose my train of thought. I was going to say related to oh dang it, what was I about to
all right,
say?
so we was talking about trauma. We was talking about how that pain is not comfortable, and how it's important for us to help people realize that it's uncomfortable. Then you had a thought, and then it left you.
Damn. Okay, yep, and it come back to me and watch. I'm gonna put it in the comment under this video if I don't get it. But dang, it's about trauma though, and the way that we kind of like hold on to it, and it really is escaping me right now, and I'm so mad right now. But it's cool.
it's,
Come
it's
back.
gonna come to you.
The train always comes back around.
It's gonna come back. It'll
It
come right
always.
back.
But yeah, there's just work that we can do, that we should do, and honestly, a lot of that is really gonna start with family or with our own families. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah.
so Black legacy building is you building your family. If you
Mm-hmm.
damn about your family, that's Black legacy building, because that means
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna do everything that you can to ensure that your family is here. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I say on my podcast all the time, like I want somebody from my lineage to be here when it all ends. I never met the person who was here when it started. I will meet
Mm-hmm.
transition up out of here. But for
Mm-hmm.
I know that because they were here when it all started, I'm here. And so I would never want to disrespect them by cutting them off, by changing who they are, or by, well, really, that's the only two things you could do. You can either cut them off or change who they are. I have no
Mm-hmm.
interest in either.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
that's real. I feel the same way. Like unfortunately, have experienced my own set of trauma. With just
is that my
how I was
grandson?
raised, but being at a place now where I am a husband and a father, I've realized that the most first off, having a family to me is like gold. So like I am wealthy beyond how I could have ever imagined because I have a family.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the most important element and aspect in my life for me. To me, my family is my physical representation of God.
Yep.
Now, that's how I view my family.
Yep.
Um, it took what I went through previously to understand the significance of that because I didn't have that growing up. No one ever looked at the family and said this about the family, you know. But it's important to understand where we are in that trajectory too, so that we can know what we need to work on and pour into that element, so that when we are in these positions to have a family, we see it for its true value and its true meaning. And I don't just feel that way about my family. I feel that way about any Black family, you know,
Right.
like, so I think that is where, you know, I see and how I feel about like your definition of legacy building, you know, and what we need to do to restore it. So yeah, that's why I wanted to tap in with you, because you know the work that you're doing is so important, and your messages is so important, and I think we need to do whatever we can to make sure that we're amplifying like your voice and getting out there as much as possible, because it's on us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can't take all like the things that happen within like our generation of being millennials, technology and all this other stuff. We can't hold ourselves up and say we have pride about that, and not take on a responsibility as to why we have this in the first place.
Right.
This is the responsibility. This is the
Right.
charge.
Right.
So we got to get to it. So you are definitely someone that's doing that. So Deb, I just wanted to make sure I had a chance to tell you that.
I appreciate.
Um, so we're gonna close with just a couple of just quick hitters. Just a couple of this, fill in the blank questions, open questions, and then we'll close out from on that point. So the
Okay.
first one says, "My path to self-discovery has taught me blank."
Ooh, that's a good question. But you know what? Patience.
Yeah. Yep.
Patience.
Yeah.
Because I want it ain't gonna come tomorrow.
Mm-mm.
And I've said I might be an ancestor when what I want actually comes to fruition, and I'm perfectly okay with that as long as it comes to fruition.
So as long as it comes, so be it. That's
Yeah.
it. I love that. Uh, Black legacy building is important because,
Without it, we die.
man, and we're not just talking about lights off. We're talking about some
Yeah.
spiritually, emotionally,
It's
right?
gone. There's no
Eh,
more of you here, dead.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Last one is, I want my legacy to be blank.
I want my legacy to be what I was meant to do here. I want it to be my purpose. And I'm realizing that my purpose is being what I consider to be an educated liberator. Um,
Mm-hmm.
have those. I don't really care for the term necessarily scholar activist because a lot of
Yeah.
times they do nothing. But like people who are really educated, like they educate themselves and stuff, and then they share that information with others to help free them and free their mind. That
Yeah.
that's the lane I'm in. I'm not in the
Hold
lane.
up.
Yes,
What did you call? You said educated liberator.
correct.
We need to put that on a shirt.
Listen, let's do it.
Yeah, this needs to be like a decaf sticker and everything. That needs to be everywhere.
Listen, the more you learn, the more you're supposed to share, especially if it's supposed to benefit the people. So if you ain't doing that, I ain't really got much for you. And you probably not gonna like any of my content because
Come on.
conflict. That's it. That's what it was. Conviction. Conviction. I was saying
Yeah.
earlier, I was talking about it when people like get upset or that they get hit by stuff and they don't want to deal with it. It's that conviction. And we need
Yeah.
to it because that's what's gonna make us change our behavior and our mentality.
There it is. Okay. So I'm happy that it came back to you when it needed to come back,
Listen.
because I think that's the perfect way to end this one. You know, I take this interview as an overall just a call to action for all of us that's listening, that's taking part in it, to understand the importance of how important we are,
Yeah.
because we are important. And regardless of how you got here, some of us are dealing with like, man, my parents wasn't together. I
Mm-hmm.
dealt with that in my life. Like, my parents wasn't together. I just, appeared out of nowhere. I was a love child, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it was done on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that. Like, I know it was done on purpose. Maybe it wasn't for my parents to know, but I came here because God said it was time for me to come. So I'm here.
Listen, and mine apparently planned for and executed the plan. So I'm like, yeah, the ancestors must have really wanted me. I can't name not a soul who could tell me that, and that's so sad.
Yeah, yeah.
Generations from now, that won't be the case.
It will not be the case. And I feel the same exact way. That's how I look at my family and I say, they will never know those kind of feelings. They will never go without knowing that not only do their daddy love them, but their mama love them, their uncles love them. Like, this is love. This is truly a community, a village of love. And if someone steps into this is the expectations. If you can't fulfill that expectation, then you will not be welcome to this village.
Listen, yep.
That's it, So, but yes, thank you. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Remember that me and you both, we need to work on this. Educated, liberated. That needs to be on a shirt. We're going to put that on a shirt somewhere.
With it. I'm with it wholeheartedly. Last thing I'll say is that if you did watch this, the last episode of my podcast is one that if you're really trying to change stuff in your family, you should listen to, because it's all about familial accountability agents, and we
Yeah.
put our families accountable, whether they like it or not. Like at the end of the day, it's what's needed for our families to continue. So
Dope.
here, do the work.
If you have the link to it, send it to me and I'll post it on our page too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I will. And if you're here, you can check it out. It's the link in my bio, but I'll send it to Trey as well so y'all have it.
Perfect. All right. Well, dear sister, we definitely appreciate you. Thank you for the work that you're doing. We're going to stay plugged in and keep holding each other accountable so that we make space for this healing to start.
Absolutely. And so
All
will
right.
it. Alrighty.
All right, dear sis.
Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you.
Tapping in. That right there is our dear sister, Nubian Queen. You definitely need to follow her. Super brilliant, super dope, super charged with the importance of us to maintain what is the true legacy of all of us as the original people. If you identify as whatever you identify, Black, African American, whatever, whatever term makes sense to you, what it all comes back to is, we are the original. And it's important for us to understand that, because if you know that, then you know that you are here for a reason and we have purpose. And it really is on us to go out and to really make that difference, be that change that we want to see in the world. So again, shout out to Nubian Queen for tapping in with us. Shout out to everybody that's here in the discussion. I saw a couple of comments go up. I just want to make sure there's no questions, because sometimes I forget to check the questions. I don't see any questions. Just a couple of points. DJ Gamma Ray, what's popping with you, fam? Said observation obligation. Man, that's so real, bro. Like the more, but I think also too, sometimes like we'll have an observation and then we may be charged with an obligation, but then we say like, man, I'm not the person to take charge on this. And it's like, no, you are the person. That's why that thought came to you and you felt the way you felt to move towards an action. So like we can never like sell ourselves short in thinking that we're not the person to do that. No, we are. We definitely are. Shout out to my boy Jay Fitness that's in this, man. Many blessings to you as well, King. Thank you for tapping in with us. Yeah, I think that's about it. So again, man, look, we all are a part of a lineage. We all are a part of something to make sure that we go about it and be purposeful, with our intentions on how we build our legacy. One more time for folks who want to check out Nubian Queen's podcast. It is called The Total Package, and it's everywhere. It's on Apple, it's on Spotify, it's on YouTube. It's whatever, however you get your podcast, it's going to be there. So be sure you check it out. The Total Package podcast. It's dope content. It's real. It definitely feeds the mind and the soul. So, all right, y'all. Thank y'all for tapping in. I'll catch y'all next time. Until then, man, y'all stay safe. Don't act like COVID is not here because it's still out here. Make sure you're doing what you can to protect yourself and your family. All right, y'all. Peace.